Yeah, welcome to the title level request session. I will give it to you, Steph. I think that is the best.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience. So today I'm just going to give a brief update of where we started and where we are and where we're going with title level requests in Folio. So title level requests started a couple of years before I joined the project, which was 2019. So we started with title level requests basic, and then title level requests complete. And then we went through a couple light phases. So you can see that this has been a very iterative process. We have recently done title level requests complete part 2, title lookup for requests within the app. And right now we are working through the final testing of making sure that circulation rules on items should be followed by title level requests hold. So that will come out with Poppy. And then moving forward, we still have quite a bit of work for us to do. Always iterating, always refining, but also making sure we hit multi-volume series and continuing resources, expanded permissioning, implementing load balancing for recalls, and customizing the request type order via discovery. Plus, I'm sure there are more that will come up as we move forward. This is just this video. I'm going to be able to get it to play. There we go. This shows some of the newer work that we've been doing of setting up your loan policies and circulation rules so that holds can either be fulfilled all the time, or you can now choose to have them denied and failed. So that piece of work that we did where holds were always allowed and always a fallback is now an option, or it will become Poppy. So your institutions can choose whether they would like for that to happen or not. And like I said, that was a very quick overview of where we started, where we've come, and where we're going. And I'm going to open it up to Magnus for some discussion.
And for that, we are going to pull up some slides. Just a second. Quickly disconnect. Yes. All right. I will. All right.
Because I wanted to speak specifically about title level request and page. And for those that haven't met me, my name is Magnus Andersson. I work at Linköping University over in Sweden. And we went live with Nolana just in July, and we hope to upgrade to Orchid as soon as possible and start using title level requests. And as I said, I wanted to talk about how title level request works with page, and we have some issues with it. Nothing. Let's see. It does work. Yeah, nothing show-stopping, but most of the issues we have is related with the fact that as soon as you have created a title level request and it becomes a page, in effect, it becomes an item level request. And that turns into some annoyances. And I wanted to show some examples of those. So for example, we have a patron that might make a title level request, and it still happens that they go to the shelf themselves and want to pick up the item. But if they pick another copy, all of a sudden both copies will be locked to this patron. And this like most of these scenarios, it's just how page works, I guess. I'm not sure if it's possible to adjust it for title level request or not, but the wanted result should be that if they pick another copy, the request should just be filled either way. And all of these scenarios are quite kind of similar. So for example, staff can't find a requested copy, marks it as missing. There are other available copies. Now we have to move it manually to the other copy, but the hope would be that you could just pick another copy, and when you return it, the system should notice that the request is filled. And this is the version where they can't find another available copy. And we only use page and holds, so we don't use recalls. And with recalls, it's possible to move from a page to a recall. But when it comes to holds, you can't move a page to another copy and make it a hold. And that means we pretty much have to delete the request and create a new request to be able to move it. But the dream would be that if you mark the item missing, it would automatically change to a hold instead of a page. But yeah. And then we have some other versions where if we have, for example, multiple available copies that get paged, but you can't find one of the page copies, the person might be moved back in the queue instead of just that the patrons get the requests filled in the order they made the request. So all of these scenarios are pretty much, this is how page works, and it was made for item level requests, and it has just been moved over to title level request. And nothing is show-stopping, but there are a lot of improvements to be able to be made, if it's possible to adjust page in this way. So, for example, for us, the way holds works overall is pretty much how we would like it to work even for copies that are available on the shelf as well. So you can just pick any copy. Patrons should get the copies in the order they made the request, and staff shouldn't have to move requests within the title if we use title requests. That's pretty much how I would like it to work. And then just, as I said, other libraries might like how some of this works and have other opinions of what could be improved. I'm not sure. It would be nice to know what's technically possible to just adjust without breaking page for item level requests, because I guess it works as it's intended for item level requests. Do we want to make any like bigger changes and look further into the future? Do we see it as important that libraries can choose a bit more on their own how they want to do? For example, we are forced to use page. We probably wouldn't want to use it, to be honest, but our patrons need to be able to request items that's on the shelves. But we would probably prefer if they weren't locked to the patrons. So if someone else picked up the book before we did, they should still be able to loan it. And that's not really possible now. So some stuff like that. And just overall, is there a world where we could use title level requests without page? Or is it possible to adjust page? Yes, Brooks.
Not specifically addressing what you're going to go do. You're not even recall, but I wondered.
Yeah.
Looked at the way the recall functionality works whenever item that could fill out recall request comes through circulation, like it's checked in. It is recalls works very similarly to pages. Whenever the records are created, it still selects an item to associate that request with. But when an item build out recall is checked in, it's routed to build out recall, takes the place of the item that was originally assigned. You think you need like pages to work in a very similar fashion, where like the moment an item that should have built that page request is checked in for the previous status of available, it gets routed to fill that request. Is that what you're thinking?
I think if I understand it, yeah, pretty much it's always. I guess the issue is with page is when it becomes a page, it's filled. It goes from one queue to their own little queue. It goes from what's the accordions called? If you look at the queue for the title of request.
Fulfill.
In fulfillment, yeah.
Right.
So it's almost like page. But title level. It's
No,
recall the will switch to an
Yeah.
item. So I can see pluses and minuses to what you're saying, because we used to do this all the time. We had 4 copies, the student brings down the wrong copy,
Yeah.
we check it in, and it would just fulfill that page request, and that worked great. But then when you move, I think the biggest problem is if we're in a consortial environment. So what if someone at another institution checks out in an item and they're all on the same instance? Does that one get sent to fulfill the hold at my institution? That's where it seems
That's where
to
the
break
request,
down.
that's where the request policy regulation was gonna play there.
Okay,
So respecting those is critical, you know, that those are being respected during the title of the request evaluation process.
yeah,
Is critical. One thing that at the end of what you were saying there, you're talking about having kind of this idea of just a pure title level hold that would just get filled regardless. Like
yeah,
an item comes in, if they're all that title level holds are in a queue, an item comes in and can fill that request, it gets routed to fill that request based on the position, but that request is the queue. One thing that kind of bouncing around in my head is basically you would basically have to say we don't do pages of recall.
Yeah.
All we do are title level hold. All title level hold would need to print a slip, because you would, if you want to do shelf retrieval, you would need a slip for that. At basically every location where that item is held would need to get a paging slip in the system. And I can see pluses and minuses to that. If that's the way you operate, I think it's fine. But if you have a lot of locations and a lot of staff, you could potentially be wasting a lot of time having people go and treat those with the way Folio currently prints slips. Now, if the first place to print a slip for that title level request basically kind of claims that slip for the time it takes it them to check and see if they have it, and basically say we don't have it in some way, and then it goes back and then that would be another workflow that would potentially work here.
yeah. In a perfect world, it would look for the most for an item at the library where the pickup is, the first available item, and put that in the pick slip. And if you change that, put that item as missing, for example, it will go to the next item just for the retrieval. And this is, we have our different conditions because we don't use the folio pick slips. We use our own solution for that. But yeah, there are some issues with it, definitely. And we're also just 3 libraries. So even if we had to check on every library, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So it's a bit obviously different. Then that's also, now we have just one solution and everyone has to fit in that solution. And if it was possible to make some different choices for different libraries, would be great. But I just for fun, I tried to set up title level request with just holds allowed. And it kind of half the way it works as I wanted it to work, but instead of being able to loan any copy, all the copies get locked because there's a hold on the title. So
if somebody else brings any copy to the desk, they can't check it
no,
out. Oh,
but that was just the start to try, and maybe it's still something that would be possible to work on without breaking something else, but I'm not sure. It's kind of, yes. So that's what kind of what I thought. But I have no idea what's possible technically without big adjustments, or if some of the scenarios are possible to fix, or does that mean page has to be reworked, and that might not be worth it? I have no idea.
So just because I'm not working in Flow yet, so I'm trying to make sure I understand. When you page a specific item, whether you print the slip out or not,
Yeah.
is it actually devolving to that item? Does the title level hold get replaced by an item level hold on that item? Or
In practice, yes.
okay,
So for pages and recalls placed at the title level, it technically we needed to attach the page or the recall to an item
Okay.
to be able to actually retrieve it.
right.
So it does effectively turn into a thing of text.
You hit allowing. There's, like I said, recalls are weird because it's very vague because the first time it comes back in, that it's checked into the system to fill that request, will be used to fill that request. But pages aren't set up that way. That's
but you almost would want them to be.
And it's almost as though you need to trigger a means for the page. At the location geographically where the pickup is. And then by staff, then checking in, they go out and grab an item that matches the request requirements. And upon check-in by the staff, TLR assigns the specific role as necessary and triggers. So there would have to be a mechanism for knowing an item is viable for fulfillment in the branch. But not having assigned the page request to it. And then again, staff check-in would instantly trigger that request.
We'd have to operate exactly opposite. But again, we're a public, so I'm not the right.
Money.
Thank you. I would love that, a copy, check in, that should fulfill it. The flexibility part, this was very important. Minus Linköping and Chalmers that I'm in, we have different approaches to who actually should get the books that they come to take. Would it be the one that has requested it or the one that has it in hand? And we have different policies. But so it's to accommodate us. Right now it accommodates hours. Right. But I think you're right. There you could see a use case for either way. So the flexibility and the ability to have it be a setting would be important.
Yeah.
And we are moving in that direction when we can and when we're able, for example, with the ability to toggle on or off whether you want holds to always happen or whether you want your holds to pick, depending on the situation. So that's a setting that can be enabled because we know institutions want it either way. But I think that level of flexibility is desired and important, but I think it's going to be a while before we get further with it. Just,
Of course, that's a while, but
it's a great question.
2 years. Is that unreasonable?
I
You can say, I get it.
There are so many moving pieces that go into what gets developed when I can't. All I know is that the title level requests is an important functionality to a lot of libraries in the community, and we will work on it steadily as long as we can, and work to get the most important or valued or ranked, however you want to put it, features done as we go, in that order.
Yeah, and it's great that we have a functioning title level request, and it was created fairly fast since we used the item level request types and just pretty much transported them. So it will absolutely work. It's just there are some improvements to be made.
I want to think more about the requests being filled by any item that's attached to a title, if one is marked missing or some other eventuality. It feels like that shouldn't be a super difficult thing. But I say that, and that's what I thought about title level requests at the very beginning 2 years ago. So, take that with a grain of salt.
It was the least complicated.
This is true. I mean, even the development team looked at the feature at the beginning and was like, oh, this will be really straightforward. This is great. We can do this in no time. Yeah, 3 releases later, we're kind of there, It's definitely been a big learning curve, and a fascinating challenge, and huge thanks to Brooks in the back for helping with the technical aspects as well. But we're always looking for ways to make this better and ways to do it in bite-sized pieces so that it can be done incrementally. So always send what you need, what you want, use cases my way, please. And thank you for putting this together. This was a good conversation starter.
One thing related to this that we probably need to talk about at some point is the way the page slip system works. Because right now it doesn't handle, let's just say, large numbers of pages very well. Because it's basically more or less gathering a report that builds data across applications. It's pulling from items and instances and the requests, records, locations, pulling all of that together. It's building the JSON response object that is sent back to the user interface, which then constructs the actual slips themselves based on the content of that response. If you've ever run the slips with a large data set, it will either take forever to finish or it will take. Most libraries don't. Well, even a large public is probably they're probably processing their requests faster than what some of the bug test stuff is done for some locations. We're talking like hundreds of thousands of active.
I was wondering what constitutes large.
Not yet those major things.
Hundreds of thousands probably.
No, that's what they say. It's slow. It can be slow when you get into the upper tens of thousands of open, not yet paid requests. But doing anything with that is really great. So getting something that is better at pulling across the different parts of the system to pull things together would be, I think, a really big first step to doing anything that got rid of that item in the whole. Like you just completely or pull the you don't associate an item with that whole request at all. Like part of the reasons for doing that in this scenario was to make it work with the way that the page slip generation process is. So if we can get past that and make that not as hard of a requirement with that page slip printing process, there's been a lot of options open up, I think, with that improvement. So I think that's something that hopefully will see sometime soon. Fingers crossed.
I think that's probably up there. in priorities.
Minimum.
Yes, performance and scalability, absolutely.
Flow chart this. Make sure you actually meet her need.
Where are you coming from?
Orange County Library System, and we're a little peculiar. We're a fairly large metro public service population, like 1.5 million. But we deliver our holds, like 50,000 a month. So we pull from the branches using library priority. If we can't find a domain, then we pull from the branches. So we can't have 15 branches looking for the same item.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that killed our last migration project that we were working on. But I won't bother anybody with details. It's just a little bit of a different environment than
There is location logic that's working now, so that when a request is placed, it goes through the location hierarchy to find, to pull from there to places.
we deliver
Like to
to the customer. It's actually about not over 90% of them are delivered. There's a small number of people who just don't want stuff delivered to their home or live in gated communities where they can't provide an access code. That kind of stuff.
That's the work to add pickup location logic.
I did go into the demo instance about a year ago, and in about a couple of hours, I was able to configure it to set up like default delivery versus default pickup customers.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, that was the thing that made me say to my leadership, like, we actually need to look at this. That's why we're stuck with
Yeah, the kind of the biggest missing piece there is the stuff that kind of you've identified as the ability to kind of route delivery items to particular delivery fulfillment locations. Is that something you do, or everything goes to the central?
Oh, it actually all comes to me and
Okay.
we actually have a sort of like a quasi associated delivery service.
We'd still need this, because right now, the moment that the delivery request item hits a service point,
Mhm.
it asks you to check it out for delivery. So when it came back in, it would go, like the fulfilling, the library would retrieve it when they check it in. If they don't have to, they can still route it as a matter of policy. But if you wanted it to be something that was kind of really, really system said, send it on, just go to delivery, that functionality. You can make it work. Like they just use that policy that all your retrieving libraries, the things that are delivery requests. So that it's obvious when the staff pops up and says, this item has been
Right, put it in
delivery.
transit to the location.
You want to check it out for the patron, and you can say yes or no. If it leaves it, but if that would be a change, but having it route automatically would be very helpful to you from a staffing UX training perspective. You're gonna have people accidentally checking things out, but that's the patrons when they shouldn't be.
Flow charts.
Well, charts, yeah.
I think we had a question.
Is I'm just curious, and then are you using the request now from you? We turned it on for 24 hours. No, we turned it on. I'm lying. We turned it on for an hour and a half. And it was the holds.
Yes.
That we probably could have foreseen, and then we were like, wait a second, these holds can't just be placed, and we don't do holds at all. Like we don't have any policies that allow holds. So we were perplexed. Maybe we should have done more research. But then we turned it on. Wait, but I knew it wasn't coming in Orchid, so we're like, we'll wait for copy.
Yeah, it'll be there.
We turned it on. It's in. It's something that's good. And we are kind of struggling with handling. Yeah. You allow? No. But it's possible to work around it using using a presentation on the messages. Yeah. So it's both the hosts massive element, because in combination you can make something
popular if you handle it manually.
Well, it's how much can happen.
Yeah, and
right?
it's happened much more
Yeah.
expected, but it's still better than manual because you think, let me speak again. But one thing that's listed on slides as to be decided was the load balancing recourse. And actually, I think that's a bug. For us, we experience it as a bug rather than an enhancement.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
So that's going to be really problematic from next week. And that's about when all copies are checked out, we are using recourse, paging recourse. The balancing are they cannot get one after the other based on term latest. Yeah, but when at least one item has some up stages, like waiting several items, some those can be when the balances. It's in all the requests ends up on the one, and I think that's the latest one that is handled. I may say something wrong, but I don't know that it's.
But it doesn't seem to be distributing them across.
No, they don't. And what can happen, the consequence can be that there's a queue for something, but someone can borrow something and get 90 days long bounce period, while there's the four in queue are all ended up at another because that is waiting. Yeah. And that's what's happening when it's high demand. Yeah. So we have to make manual interventions, and I hope that will not be far in the future. It's about.
And that's the load balancing. You think that will solve that problem?
That's the intent. I will say that is a shell of a requirement right now. I have not started digging into how we would address it. And the TBD just means I don't know when, what release it will go in. It will be worked.
Right, are you using alternative loan periods for both?
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, okay, I just.
Well, the loan is first in line, I think. Or something like that.
When the recall is actively on that item, right? Well, you're saying all the recalls are stacked on a different item.
Yeah.
Somebody checks out this item, and even though there's 4 recalls on this one goes out for the full loan.
Yes,
Because there's no active recall.
Yeah.
Because
So we we have that actually, but the loan for loan shouldn't be longer than the shorter. But it has to be in the right place in the queue for it to work.
okay,
It is.
that's,
So it's not I know it has been discussed. But
yeah, because I think the vision for that was that items with recalls on there. All of the the one item that would actually be actively recalled, where they, the notice would go out to the patron, and the item has been recalled. All of the other items on that title that could fill that request should be treated as though they have hold on. And so in that thing, I would expect the different loan period for items with holds setting to govern it. So it would say you had normal loan period 90 days, but you have a 2-week or 30-day alternate loan period, where that's your minimum guarantee loan period, basically for your recall items. Say the same time period for both. That I would think should help avoid that, but if it's not doing that, that maybe that's the requirements for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I really appreciate sport and the organization works.
Good. Music to my ears.
I understand that you're really distracted. But I wonder, the Library of Congress as well. What's this most important for?
We have a ton of uninventory items. So lots of second copies of things that's just collected.
Now, there's some specific things which I've been invested in this improvement in what
That Steph has given a nice presentation of some pictures that something like I just started as the fulfillment PO. I jumped around the project in different ways. I'm still kind of learning some of that. But title level request is going to be essential. Some of these problems already kind of sound familiar.
Those uninventoried items are that keeps me up at. They decide.
That, and I think, how congressional loans and requests are handled is really for you as well.
Yeah. So we serve members of Congress. They can check materials out. They trump other sort of users because they're very important. So
And it's hard because you can't say this patron type can't be requested from, like there's no, or recalls from, right? That sort of thing. Our folks, when we first put the CERC rules together, misinterpreted, like read the CERC rule as this combination of patron and item type, loan type can't be recalled. Well, it's not that you can't recall from, it means that group can't recall. So that's really tricky when you have differential privileges between your user groups.
sure. Yeah.
And then title one
Within that group of specific users.
we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Congressional user. Plus, so people that on the materials don't know. Ted Cruz is pulling this book. So there's some proxy stuff.
Just a little bit.
That's the one that broke me. It's the library. Okay.
Confidentiality.
Yeah.
Users or
So there's a small group of staff that pull the materials for congressional users and their proxy lists.
So you have, I'm sorry, if I maybe I can see them.
Yeah. It's all layers of secret coding. Yeah.
Other things about title level requests we want to talk about? We've got some time. Thank you, Magnus.
But you showed about how it's going to work in Poppy. It wasn't great.
Should I pull up a slide?
Yeah.
So I can talk through it while Deanna's pulling up the slide. So there will be a setting that you can enable within title level request settings that says allow title level holds to fail. And when you enable that and you have the proper circulation rules, you'll be able to a user will try to place a hold on an item or a staff member, and an error will come back that says, you know, a hold is not available for this patron and item combination, or whatever the combination is in that circulation that causes it to fail. It's a slide 4. And it's just a video from our QA team.
Should I restart it?
Basically, it's
Press
looking
play.
at the circulation rules for all of the items on that title and saying, can any of these have a hold placed on them based on their circulation rules right now? And if not, then the request is there.
Those circulation rules. It's you.
Yes, they do. That's one of the ways that already exists. It's the whole piece that did.
That's one of the ways we're able, that's one of the reasons that pages and recalls are attached to items immediately is also so that those item level circulation rules can be followed. Because circulation rules are on the item, not the. So sometimes I just look at what's right.
I'm trying to make sure I understand this correctly. We requested for our EDS to differentiate on patron type as to whether those, in our case, a state of Michigan employee versus a member of the public, whether they would see an option in the EDS to page something or place a wolf either. And that has not happened. But if I understand it correctly, in this case, it could be allowed, if it were allowed in the discovery layer, then it would come into folio and it would end up failing if I had it set up correctly for a member of the public, and then they'd get place to check.
It should. I'm still doing testing with this new feature through Discovery, but that is the intention.
Just have to figure out how to word that cancellation message that doesn't say state employees all get special privileges, but the taxpayer, because people all get upset.
In that case, though, the message that EDF actually presents in those sort of things will be pretty generic, and doesn't really tell anybody.
So they might just think it's because it's not on the shelf or whatever. And then they might.
The question on it, or it's something pretty. One thing, I'm pretty sure this was mentioned last year. I mean, opposite, but enhancements to the patron interaction APIs and kind of just APIs in general. But the patron API, edge patron portfolio was built a long time ago. It was minimum viable product, good enough for where does it land? It's later, it probably needs to be revisited. Because there are a lot of functionality in the discovery side that requires knowledge about the patron. And there's no way to expose that if you use the safer way, as Viewfind found out with the title of the request was introduced, interact with those services, because with the copy APIs, as Aaron mentioned earlier in the discussion thing, those can change, and with kind of little warning relatively speaking. So we use title of request was introduced, the schema for requests change, and anything that assumed the structure of that data object would fail. Viewfind talk directly to a copy. The Viewfind integration for requests started failing. That scramble, fix that, basically we had to reintroduce data point into the request schema, make it look like the old schema a little bit, and that fixed it. But those kinds of things can happen. So we're trying to get folks on these edge APIs that work a little bit better. But in order to do that, we have to keep up with the functionality of the system that's work for that with APIs.
That's a beta tool, so it's all super interconnected with everything that we're talking about.
Yeah, for delivery requests and things like that, like return, like allowing patrons to select their addresses in discovery. You said I have multiple addresses that this delivery get from them. Having the ability to do that would require, so we say present, some representation of their address setting, out to them through discovery. And so that those kind of things just aren't possible with those discovery that requires talking to Redskins to talking against the company.
Jeff, can you say something about the feature that is coming with, I'm just gonna call it Popnalia. We decided to call it Popnalia. The multi-volume series and continuing resources. So is the plan there to be able to differentiate between a multi-volume set and a copies that. So, and that is anticipated to be ready for the next release?
It is.
I detected.
Well, so it is, right now, it's slated for Christinalia, so in the spring. But my colleague Tim will be leading the work on that. So I have less of a concrete idea about it in general. Other than the fact that it is largely desired by all sorts of libraries, but Virginia books and
Expands. That means catalog will be like that. Then.
Right, well, I mean, it's a challenge for us that we already have, EDS sometimes fails when you try to request a second volume, even if though it's a different thing. But it seems like title level request would just say you already have a request on this thing and not even let you do anything with it.
yeah, which is why some of the documentation says if you have a multi-volume series, you want to do an item for it so you can request a specific copy of it. Or will be.
Trick is the thing we see on the discovery side,
Yes.
making that distinction. You have to change the interface to present it to the monk, because basically you need to present the item, specific item, but.
Yeah, you need to offer both, and the question is, do you always offer both, or do you only offer both when it's multiple set? Well, they can't do that now anyway, but, yeah, that's a question. Well, that'll be exciting to see how that plays out.
Yep. And I would love to be able to say all of these things are happening exactly when it says, but everything's subject to shifts. And it is up on our list of priorities for sure.
So we have 4 minutes left in this meeting. I will quickly ask the Zoom participants, do you have any questions? We do not have anything in chat, but if you want to ask a question, that would be the chance now. And of course, everyone here as well.
And I'm around all week. I uploaded these slides to Sked and my contact information is in there too.
Perfect. I see no questions here in Zoom and none in the room. So thank you, everyone. And especially thank you to Magnus and Steph for giving us the update and questions. And yeah, we have another resource access session. Come to that as well, please. And yeah, have a good conference. Yeah.
Thank you.